Good Monday morning, everybody. Schuyler Callihan here with Between the Ears here on Mountain Ears Now. Want to wish everyone a happy Easter to those who celebrate. And it is April Fool's Day, so we're not going to do anything tricky today here on the show or on the site. I know some people will do some stuff for clicks. That's not us. We're not going to do anything to yank your legs. Any news that you do see today will be 100% true if anything does happen. And the more I think about it, this is like the worst time to actually have April Fool's Day when you just hire a head coach. You're waiting on coaching hires. You're waiting on transfers to leave the program, transfers to come into the program, guys committing to staying. It's quite the time. It's how the calendar fell. But speaking of basketball, I figured we'd stay right on that path for right now, maybe until a little bit later on in the week. Maybe tomorrow we'll go back to football. We'll see. But expectations. That's been like the number one thing out of any conversation regarding Darian DeVries since he was hired. And I get it. It makes a lot of sense to kind of wonder, be curious about what his potential is, what this program's potential is with him at the charge. And I've got to admit, like, I really don't know. And I really don't think anybody really knows the true limit, like the absolute max ceiling that this program can go with him leading it. I do know, well, shouldn't say no, I have a pretty darn good feeling, okay, that he's going to get West Virginia back on track. And when I say back on track, I'm meaning getting back to the Big East, or not the Big East, goodness gracious, getting deeper into, the Big 12 tournament on a regular basis, finishing in the top half of the Big 12 on a regular basis, which is a little tougher now considering you have, 14 million teams. But I do think that's going to happen. I do think you're going to see NCAA tournament appearances happen very regularly. And as I stated last week, he was my 1B guy. Like I listed 10 candidates and it was really a toss up for me. I had Pat Kelsey 1, Darian DeVries 2. I labeled them as such, but it was pretty much 1A, 1B for me. It was really splitting hairs. So Louisville, obviously, I like that hire for them. After the DeVries thing happened with West Virginia and some of the other movement that happened on with some other jobs, I was kind of wondering if Pat Kelsey was going to get a job. And I started thinking, damn, maybe I was just a little bit of ahead of the curve there on Pat Kelsey, but he ends up getting a job. Congratulations to him. I think he's going to do really good there with the Cardinals. But with DeVries, everyone has to tamper their expectations. You just have to. With a new coach, it's going to take time. Even in today's era of got to have that instant success, got to have, all the things that West Virginia was prior to this past year. That's just not realistic, even in the portal era. Because the one thing that I think a lot of people tend to forget is you have to set the culture right. And that is one thing he hammered home time and time and time and time and time again during his introductory press conference. He explicitly said he is not going to sacrifice the culture to win in 24-25. And what does he mean by that? Well, I put it out in the article yesterday, but for those who haven't read it, you're not going to just start filling your roster with guys that you feel good about talent-wise, but attitude, makeup, work ethic, just overall cultural fit, if it doesn't make sense in those regards, you're not just going to add guys just to fill out the roster. There could be a very possible situation here where they get 10 to 11 scholarship guys, and Darren looks around and says, yeah, you know what? This might be what we have for this year. 10 to 11 guys that he can count on. And that's okay. That's okay for year one. You got to think high school recruiting, they're way, way, way behind in that. in terms of future years. 24 classes already come and gone for the most part. They have Carmelo Atkins signed. That's the only commit that they have signed in that 24 class. So this is going to be a roster made up primarily of transfer portal guys. You've got to get the right pieces here because when you're going out to recruits in the 25 class and the 26 class and so on and so forth, when they come to Morgantown to visit, whether it be a practice or a game, whatever, they're going to take in everything. And the main thing is going to be the players on the roster. How are they treating recruits when they come? How are they practicing? Are they working their tails off? Are they hard working guys? Are they tough and gritty and fit into what Darian DeVries believes West Virginia could and should be? If that vision is not painted on the court or even off of the court, recruits are going to see that. They're going to see, hey, there's a little bit of a misalignment there. It doesn't quite match up to what coach is pitching me. So you have to get the right guys in place year one. It is so, so critical. So year one, yeah, it would be great to make the tournament. Of course it would. But that's not what the expectation should be. The expectation should be to set the foundation. This is how West Virginia basketball is going to play. These are the types of guys that they're going to go after. And this is what we're not going to stand for. I'm speaking as if I'm Coach DeVries. If you do those three things, you've set the foundation. Next year, you can start layering and layering and layering and layering to the point where West Virginia basketball is to its old form. That's the only way you can do it. Like you can't bring in 15 players, or you can't have 15 players on this roster if four of them don't fit. If four of them are going to screw up your vision for recruits. Because even in this era, high school recruiting is going to be the most pivotal part of this all. This is still a very developmental program in college basketball. I would argue, maybe even more so in football. We could have our debate, but recruiting high school kids is extremely, extremely important because if you can hit on a kid out of high school, you've got him for 4 years. Let's be honest. What's the percentage of kids that go one and done? It's very, very small. How many have done it at West Virginia? Very, very, very few. I don't even remember the last one. The last two and done was Deuce. So the likelihood is, and especially now with NIL being in the mix, you're going to be able to hold on to kids longer. Would you rather put X amount of dollars into a transfer for 1 year or 2 years? Or would you rather do that with a guy that can stick around and really be the driving force of this program for 4 years? It's easy math to me. I mean, the goal is to get old and stay old in college basketball. We've heard that term for several years now. But when you can hit on the high school kids and they grow and develop like JC did and Dax did, those two stuck together from the time they arrived on campus all the way to that last game where they lost to Villanova in the Sweet 16. They grew, matured in every aspect, not just basketball. They became leaders. That is what Darian DeVries has to find. It's not the next JC or Dax, but he's got to have those types of qualities in his players coming from the high school ranks. He's going to need some Bulldogs, man. He's just going to. Some kids that are going to want to stick it out through the tough times and get to the point where they are the ones that help turn this thing back on track. So don't get your expectations up. Again, things could be great. They could win 25 games for all I know. And we could rewind back this video a year from now and say, look at this idiot talking, thinking that they were only going to win, I don't know, 17, 18 games. But I think most fans should approach this situation this year very similar to how they did this past season with Josh Allen. To be cautiously optimistic, right? I mean, you can't set the bar extremely high because of the circumstances. Now it's a little bit different because you more than likely will have a better piece together roster than you did last year with Eilert, and that's not his fault. But just settle the expectations down for just a little bit and watch this man do his work. I'm telling you, this is still, in my opinion, a tremendous hire for West Virginia. Brent Baker hit it out of the park. Everyone that's mad that they didn't get Dusty May, I'm telling you, Dusty May would not have worked as well, I should say, as Darian DeVries. I think I had Dusty May. I could be wrong. You can call me out if I'm wrong on this. I believe I had Dusty May fourth on that list, maybe third. But I really feel like this was a much better fit culturally, and I just think that this is the kind of coach that West Virginia needs. So hang on tight. It's going to get better. It just might not happen overnight. Okay. That's the famous Matt Rule said. It took Jay-Z 7 years to become an overnight legend. Anyways, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountain Eers Now. Give us a like. Follow us on X at the same handle. I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thank you guys for watching. This has been another episode of Between the Eers, and we'll be back here tomorrow morning.